Howdy, welcome back. My name is Cody Cox. I am your host, and you're listening to Real Food Mental Health. Side note, did you know that howdy is the most disarming greeting that you can give to someone? It is both unexpected and friendly. So sometimes I say howdy once in a while for that reason. Today's guest is Joshua Noland, and I really enjoyed our conversation today. We talked about some simple strategies to start cooking. If you are not used to cooking, or maybe you have been cooking but you just don't feel like you're doing very well with it, today's episode is for you. Joshua Noland is a holistic lifestyle strategist, author, and the host of the Health Unfiltered podcast. He's on a mission to help people improve their quality of life by teaching them how to replace bad habits with good ones and develop a holistic approach to health. His approach includes whole foods, an active lifestyle, and a particular emphasis on mental wellness. His specialty is teaching people how to prepare food that not only tastes good but is good for you and doesn't take all day. He overcame IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, food addiction, and depression, and lost over 80 pounds by taking control of his health. He developed the healthy habits he needed to achieve lasting success and maintained his weight loss for many years despite countless setbacks, and he can help you do the same. Outside of his writing, he's an avid outdoorsman and a devoted dog father, continually inspired by nature and his loyal canine companions. Now, I mentioned that he's the host of the Health Unfiltered podcast, and I do want to say he interviewed me on his podcast a few months ago. You might want to go check that out. I'll put a link directly to the episode in the show notes of this episode. I am starting up my small group nutrition program again. So if you are feeling like you need some help getting started on a low carb, keto, or even just a whole food diet in general, this program might be for you. For more information, go to beavercreekwellness.com/restart. Welcome to the Real Food Mental Health Podcast, where we explore the powerful connection between mental and physical health. My name is Cody Cox, a holistic nutritional psychotherapist, and I'm here to guide you on a journey to true wellness, mind, body, and spirit. If you're tired of quick fixes and want real solutions that address the root cause, you're in the right place. Let's get started on your path to lasting wellness. Welcome back to Real Food Mental Health. Today I'm talking with Joshua Noland. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me, Cody. I really enjoyed our conversation a few weeks ago on my podcast, and I'm looking forward to this one today.
Yeah, totally. And I'm going to include a link to your podcast in the show notes for today's episode. But just in case people haven't listened to that one, can you tell us? I know you've written a couple books. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, I've got a series out called the Protein Lifestyle Series, and I was really inspired to write those books because I know so many people and I see so many people that are struggling with their health, and I was able to overcome food addiction and depression and lose over 80 pounds, and I really wanted to share my story to try to help as many people as I can. So the first book is Living the Protein Lifestyle, and that's really my story and the tips and tricks that I use to find success. And the second book is the Protein Lifestyle Workbook, which is a step-by-step guide to really help people start their journey. And it's a 6-week kind of course that takes you through, asks you questions, and asks you to reflect on your goals and what you want out of it. And then the third book is my cookbook, all the recipes that I use to find success. A lot of high protein, whole food recipes in there that are really, range from really easy to a little bit harder, like my Texas style smoked brisket recipe.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it is.
know, like as a nutritionist, I have people asking for recipes all the time. And I'm like, well, can't you just go online? But they want somebody to like actually give them recipes. And so I think cookbooks are actually a really good way to go. There's a group nutrition program that I do called Restart. It's a 5-week program. Usually I offer it online, sometimes in person. But The cookbook, there is an official Restart cookbook that people can buy on Amazon. And that's a really good resource because as during this program, it's pretty much like a low carb program, really good
Hmm.
introduction to keto or whole food eating. But people always want those recipes because it
Yeah.
just helps them be more excited about following the principles that you're teaching them. And so with the protein lifestyle, I haven't read that book myself, but I imagine that that's kind of what people are wanting, right? As they are listening to you discuss these principles.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you follow someone and you're hearing their advice and you want to start cooking, it's nice to know that you have these set of like safe recipes that you can use. They're kind of
So
less.
what is the protein lifestyle? Like what's the main idea of that? I mean I could take a guess, but can you give us a little bit more detail?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the protein lifestyle is really just in a nutshell prioritizing protein, making sure you're eating enough protein, staying away from ultra processed foods. And, if I had to go back and could rename it, I think I would name it differently because it's more than just about eating protein. Definitely have to prioritize eating healthy fats too, but it doesn't stop at nutrition, and the book doesn't either. It includes a lot of information about physical fitness, just moving your body, and how important that is, in addition to mental health, which I know you focus on a lot,
Mhm.
and sleep. I mean, really, all those things together really are important for a holistic viewpoint of health, and it's really the only way to achieve optimal health.
So lifestyle being the key word there in the title, right?
Definitely.
I think we hear words like protein or carbs or fat and we just assume nutrition, but in many cases when it's the best nutrition, it's more of a lifestyle rather than just food.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's all these
And I,
fad
I I
diets out
wanted to
there.
point out you mentioned having healthy fats and how that's important. I wanted to point out too that in nature, fat and protein are never separated. They
Yes.
always come together. And I was just reading before I got on this call with you, just reading about how you really should have them together. You shouldn't just have like a protein powder, for instance, because if you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to bulk up, maybe you go to the gym all the time, you're doing the protein powders, the protein bars, the creatine, all those sports nutrition supplements, that's going to help. But studies have shown that you're going to build more muscle more quickly by also having fat with that protein.
Yeah, definitely. I was just reading the other day about whey protein, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is whey protein is just a byproduct of making cheese. When
Mm,
you make cheese, you press the curds out, and what comes out is the whey, and that was a waste product. And producers were trying to figure out what to do with that, and they figured out they could dehydrate it and they could sell it to people that are trying to lose weight and build muscle. And like you're saying, it's really better to get it in a whole form, the way nature made it. You don't want to mess it up and eat, skinless chicken. You want to eat the skin on because that's where the fat is.
yeah. Good point. Yeah, whey is one of the most common forms of protein. It's, I would say it's probably the cheapest. And I've
Yeah,
heard it's more bioavailable, which makes sense because it is an animal protein, but it's not a whole food.
definitely not.
Um, and I've heard the same thing about fluoride too. Like
Mm,
fluoride technically is present in nature. We might even get it in very small trace amounts from food. Sometimes I think it's mostly just from water, but what we put in city tap water is actually an industrial byproduct of some other industrial process. I don't even know what industry it comes from, but it's an
yeah, I'm not
industrial
sure.
byproduct. It's not fluoride in its natural form or in its
Hmm.
natural proportions with water.
Yeah, yeah. Similarly, seed oils.
Hmm.
When they get the seed oils, from different products. Um, they have the leftover stuff, and they use that to press out and make oils. like avocado oil. They use the pits and stuff, and avocado oil is usually a good one. You have to be careful about which brand you get. Make sure it's clean and not cut with anything else. But a lot of those seed oils are byproducts and originally used for lubricating machinery and stuff. And they found a
Hmm.
way to bleach them and cook them. And it's such a crazy process. If you've ever seen how these ultra processed oils are created, it's not very
Yeah.
appetizing.
I actually saw a picture of a seed oil processing plant just a few days ago. Can't remember where I saw it, but it looked like an oil refinery, and essentially that's what it is,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you've got these big silos and smokestacks, and like it looks like a factory.
they definitely
Like
don't feature that
not
on
something that food
the
should come
labels of the
from.
products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you like the protein lifestyle. I think that sounds like really, really good information, but a lot of people really struggle with the basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm starting to realize that now too. Like I'm 20 years into studying nutrition, and sometimes I get really impatient with people for just not knowing more. But I have to remember, like, I started out small too. Like, for me, it was starting with sports nutrition. I started with the protein powders, and then eventually I started doing other things as I learned more and more. But what about cooking? I'm noticing that a lot of people don't really know how to cook. So, what would you say are the most important things people need to know when it comes to cooking?
It's only as complicated as you make it. You see all these crazy recipes online, and it doesn't have to be that hard. It can be really easy. Just starting out with some basic equipment, like a good cast iron skillet, an air fryer can make things really convenient. And then just learning some basic recipes. If you don't know how to make an egg, you can start with that. There's the simplest thing is just a fried egg. Put some butter or some beef tallow or avocado oil in your pan and just fry an egg. And if you don't like fried eggs, you can scramble them. Or if you don't like scrambled eggs, you can poach them. There's a million ways to eat eggs, and it's pretty simple. It's really good protein and fat. And
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
and eat the yolks too. The yolks are an important
definitely.
source of not just fat, but other nutrients.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people make the mistake of just eating the whites, and that's been a thing for decades. And probably it came out of the whole like idea of eating low fat in general,
Hmm.
low cholesterol, but you want that yolk.
Yeah, you definitely do. And if you're eating a bunch of eggs and you're trying to lose weight, you don't have to use all the yolks. You can take out a couple to cut down on the amount of calories, but definitely include some for the nutrients that they provide.
Totally. And I like that you brought up a cast iron skillet. I don't think I've talked about that on my show before. Like I totally use cast iron myself. And to me, it's just an everyday thing. I don't really think to share that with people. But so there's cast iron. Of course, you want to be careful with what kind of oils you're putting in that. If you buy it from like Lodge is a really popular company based out of Tennessee. They have really good skillets, but they recommend using seed oils to season them.
Oh
I
man.
don't think that's a good idea. Why is
Yeah,
that not a good idea?
it's just the whole problem with the seed oils. I mean, they're very inflammatory and not good for your metabolic health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, so cast iron's a good thing, but you just want to use the right fats. So like I use bacon grease most of the time.
Oh yeah,
You
I'm a
could
big
you
fan.
could use lard, you could use tallow. Once in a while I'll use avocado oil just because I have some in like a spray can. It's convenient.
Yeah.
That's not my first choice, but I'll use it once in a while. Coconut oil might be a good option, but the thing with coconut oil is it makes everything taste like coconut. And so sometimes that's not a good thing.
Right. Sometimes it is though. I love making popcorn with coconut oil.
Yeah, yeah, I'll make popcorn with coconut oil once in a while. So
Hmm.
so yeah, it just depends on what you're making.
Yeah. definitely
So what
one.
else? What else is there? So there's cast iron. Are there any other like cooking utensils or tools that you would recommend?
Yeah, as far as like pans go, definitely you want to stick with something that's non-toxic. All those non-slip pans, they've got that coating on them that leaches into the food and can be toxic for you. So to avoid that, you want to stick with cast iron or carbon steel. Um, I think the barbecue grill is a really great way to cook. It's fast, it's easy cleanup, and you can do a lot on it.
And
Um,
usually that's cast iron too.
yeah, usually the grates are cast iron, so you don't have to worry about that. And air fryers. I mean, air fryers have become really popular, and there are a lot of them on the market with the nonstick coatings, but there are some that don't have it. You can keep an eye out for that. Some of have like glass containers with like stainless steel racks in them, and you can cook a steak from frozen in an air fryer in about 20 minutes, and it comes out
Wow.
really good as long as you don't overdo it. It has to be at least an inch thick steak, or it'll get overdone in the middle. But yeah, if you're in a pinch and you've got a frozen steak, you can just throw some salt on it, throw it in the air fryer for about, I think it's 8 minutes or so, and then you flip it halfway through another 8 minutes and check the temp, and you can have a really great meal without too much cleanup, too much time.
So I've heard that air frying, while it is better than deep frying
Yeah.
or even pan frying, depending on the oils that you're using, it is still frying. Like, doesn't an air fryer still use like a seed oil of some kind? It's just a
No, I
smaller
mean
amount.
it's really just a convection oven. It's really just
Okay.
circulating that heat, that hot air around in a way that helps dry it out. And you really don't need any oil in an air fryer.
Okay. I've heard that some of them still require like a couple tablespoons of oil or something. So that's why they call it healthier because it just uses less oil. But
Yeah.
then it kind of sounds like it just depends on the air fryer that you're getting because, like you mentioned, some of them have glass containers with stainless steel racks, and
Hmm.
stainless steel I think is something I would recommend for people as far as pots and pans go if they want to go a little bit more conventional, something that's more like dishwasher friendly, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
They're a little harder
personally,
to keep clean. Take a
yeah,
little more elbow grease.
and it depends on how you cook too. I mean, people don't realize you have to be patient with the cooking process for it to turn out as a healthy meal. For one thing, you have to low and slow is what I always say. So like just a low heat. It's a slow process, but ultimately that's going to be better for you and probably even taste better. But then also you have to heat up the pan before you add the food to it, especially when you're
Yeah.
cooking proteins.
Oh yeah.
And people are not patient enough to let the pan heat up. So the general rule of thumb that I follow with my cast iron is I'll heat it up enough to where if I throw water on it, it'll sizzle and evaporate instantly.
Hmm.
Like
That's
that's when I
definitely a
know
good way.
it's hot enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, low and slow is a good way to go, but some things you can do hot and fast, especially on the grill, like a steak.
yeah,
Get the grill nice and hot, put it on there for 3 minutes each side, and you got a perfectly, medium rare steak.
yeah, and sounds like the air fryer is a faster way to do it. What about the instant pot? What do you think of that? Or a pressure cooker in general?
Yeah, that's a great point. I love my Instant Pot. I use it a lot. It's a really great way to make a bone broth. Just throw some beef bones or chicken bones in there with some water and salt. That's the very, very basic bone broth that you can make in about an hour. And it's a really great source of vitamins and minerals, and can really satiate you. It's a good way to do a cleanse. If you're trying to do a cleanse, it'll keep you full. And then at the same time while avoiding other things that might be triggering your gut. I actually wrote a book about IBS. It's called Irritable Bowel Syndrome Relief. And in that book, include a recipe for my bone broth. And that one includes carrots and celery and not celery, but cilantro and ginger. It's a little more soothing for the gut when you're having a flare up.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. And I've heard that some people will cook a bone broth like up to 72 hours. Do you cook yours that long? Maybe not in the instant pot, but if you were to do it in a slow cooker,
Yeah,
how long would you cook it?
it would probably be at least 12 hours in a slow cooker or on a pot on the stove. So that's where the instant
Okay.
pot really shines. Something else you can make in an instant pot is like a chuck roast. Throw a chuck roast in there with some beef broth and little Worcestershire sauce and salt. And, if you want, you can use coconut aminos, give it a good, unique flavor, a little umami. And that you can make in about an hour or two. It comes
Mhm.
out like a pot roast, or you can
Yeah, I
shred it
love the
up.
instant pot. The instant pot is like super versatile. You can actually use it as a slow cooker too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think personally, if I could only have one countertop appliance, it might be the Instant Pot just because you can make yogurt in it, you can use it as a slow cooker, you can pressure cook, you can saute even, which I do sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
there's just so much that you can do. Like I've made chili, I've cooked salmon, I think I've cooked steak. But yeah, there's a lot
Yeah, it's
that you could
very
do with that.
versatile. You could sear a meat in there and then pour in some bone broth or whatever to deglaze the pot, and then put the meat back in and pressure cook it.
What do you think about microwaves?
I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like microwaves, and I've heard the science on it, and I still use a microwave once in a while. I think they're really convenient, and you just have to be really careful not to use plastic to reheat foods in the microwave.
And
That's the thing.
styrofoam, I would include in that. It's basically
Yeah,
a foamy plastic.
definitely.
So yeah, so statistically speaking, only 1 in 4 American households had a microwave in the 1980s,
Oh
which to
wow.
me wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
I know to like younger people that might be like, oh, that's prehistoric, but but
1900s they say.
but 1980s, that was it within my lifetime. And when I heard that I learned that in my nutrition program actually. I was like, that actually makes sense. Like when you consider like the history of technology and everything, it seems like fewer people would have had one in the 1980s. So back then, it was more normal to just cook on the stove and cook in the oven. And that's mostly all they had. I mean, they might have had toaster ovens and toasters,
Yeah.
uh, pressure cookers more so for canning,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's pretty much all they had to cook their everyday meals. And I think people were healthier back then. But at the same time, that's when people started eating more and more ultra processed foods on a daily basis. How
Yeah,
would
there's
you how would you
definitely
define an ultra processed food?
um I mean, any food that's been highly processed, where they remove the fiber and all the nutrients to help preserve it longer, and then they replace it with artificial flavors and colors, and yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between processed and ultra processed. When you take a cow and you cut up into steaks and make ground beef. I mean, that's processing. But ultra
Hmm.
processing is when you take that product and you use it in something like Taco Bell, you know, beef beef taco or whatever, and it's got all kinds of additives. I think it even has soy in it, and they'll do all that to preserve it and to make it highly palatable, but it just takes away from all the nutrients and all the positive aspects.
I met somebody who worked at Taco Bell for years, and he's about my age. I mean, this was when he was a teenager, so it's been a while, but they passed a law in the United States to where your meat had to be at least 70% meat to call it
Mhm.
meat.
Right.
And so
That's
Taco
scary.
Bell actually had to change their recipes so they could keep calling it meat.
Wow. That's really
And
scary.
so he said that most of the time they'll put like oat flour or some other cheap filler in it so that they can reduce costs, maximize profits. But that's crazy. I mean, I don't want to just point fingers at Taco Bell. I'm sure it's a lot of restaurants that
Yeah.
are doing this, and they're just going by like what's legally minimal for them to be able to call their food food,
Mhm.
and not imply to people that what they're serving is actually an ultra processed product.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen those videos about the Chick-fil-A sandwiches? And there's, I don't know, like 100 plus different ingredients, chemicals and stuff. It's
Oh, I
like it's
haven't seen
crazy. It's
those.
just a chicken sandwich. Like, you don't need all that stuff in there. I think that's
Chick-fil-A
why.
is one of those places that people think of as being like a slightly better option compared to the other
Mhm.
fast food.
Yeah.
So like, and maybe it's just that old dogma that like red meat is bad for you, fat is bad for you,
Mhm.
so therefore you should eat chicken.
Yeah.
So people have this idea that it's healthier, but it really is just another fast food place.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I mean, you can find healthier alternatives at fast food restaurants. Like even McDonald's, their hamburger patties are 100% beef. So if you're just ordering a hamburger patty or, five, that can be a great option when you're on the run, you're in a pinch, you're hungry, you need to get something to eat, and there's not a lot of
Hmm.
options available.
I had a couple episodes with a former pharmacist, Kyle Rootsart, and he's totally carnivore. Like,
Yeah.
and I think in one of those episodes he even mentioned getting like four Big Macs without the bun,
Uh
without
huh.
any toppings.
Yeah.
And like to me that's a really expensive way to get some hamburger patties, but
Yeah.
you can get 100% beef from McDonald's, and
Hmm.
so maybe it's not that bad compared to Taco Bell or somewhere else.
Yeah. It definitely depends how you order it. I think if you just
Mhm.
get the patties on the side, the quarter pound patties are maybe $1 to $2 depending where you go. Different McDonald's have different pricing, but you can order them just on the
Oh,
side.
okay.
It's
See, I just figured they would charge you for the whole burger even if you're saying I just want the patty.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
you
not the
can order
case?
it. It's not the
Okay.
case. The app is tricky. You can't order them on the app or the kiosk. You have to go up to the person if you can find one these days. There's not that many people at the cash register anymore.
They have kiosks now. You can tell how long it's been since I've been to a I,
Yeah.
I I I get fast food like maybe once a year, and that's if I'm
Hmm.
on the road and I have no other choice. And
Yeah.
it's like In and Out, and or I try to do more fast casual places like Costa
Hmm.
Vida or something.
Yeah. In and Out's
But
a great
yeah, so they
option.
have kiosks. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. They're really trying to reduce the amount of employees, and it's like really hard to find someone to talk to, and it's a little frustrating because the kiosk you can't order just a patty, um, so you have to go in and you have to talk to someone and order it yourself in person. But it's available, and it's a
Okay.
great hack if you're in a pinch and need to get some protein.
Yeah, see, I thought that was just a Costco thing. Like, because I know it was like, what, 2 years ago, maybe, that Costco started having kiosks. And like, you can
Yeah.
still go up to the register and you could still order in person if you want, but most people
Hmm.
just stand at the kiosk and do the touch screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty quick. um, if you're at Costco, you can get their hot dog for $1.50 or whatever, and if you're trying to be health conscious, you could skip the bun, just eat the hot dog. I mean, it's not the best. It's probably got nitrates and stuff in there, but it's, better
It's
option
technically
than,
an ultra processed food, but it is meat
yeah.
at least. So that's what my daughter does. She loves to get the hot dogs and she just doesn't eat the bread.
Yeah. Hopefully it's at least more than 70% meat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I'm inclined to trust Costco a little bit more than like a fast food restaurant.
yeah,
But but even then they still sell some things that I'm like, I don't really agree with this.
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, those rotisserie chickens are a great option for people if you're on the go, or even something to make at home. You can do so much with the rotisserie chicken. Make chicken salad, just eat the chicken as it is. And then when you're done with you can use the carcass to make a bone broth.
mhm. I was going to mention this earlier, but it slipped my mind. I would say the one exception to like bone broth or getting a rotisserie chicken would be if you have a histamine intolerance.
Yeah,
Because like leftover meats, which rotisserie chickens, let's be honest, they're sitting out for hours by the time you finally buy them. Yeah, they're under a warming lamp, which is nice, it's convenient, but it's not exactly fresh, which means that it's probably higher in histamine. And if your
yeah.
body can handle that, then great. Yeah, go ahead and
Hmm.
have that once in a while. But bone broth is kind of the same thing. It's higher in histamine. And so if you have a histamine issue, you might go for meat stock instead of bone broth and still get a lot of the same health benefits.
That's a great tip. Yeah.
Let's see what else. So we talked about some cooking utensils, some small appliances. Um, I try to avoid plastic whenever I possibly can. So, like, as far as utensils go, like spoons and spatulas, wood really, I think, is the best. I use stainless steel sometimes too, especially on the
Hmm.
cast iron because I'm
Yeah.
not worried about cast iron scratching.
Right.
But what do you use?
Yeah, I use primarily stainless steel spatula or wooden spoons. Definitely try to avoid those plastics for sure.
How about silicone? What do you think of that?
I think silicone's safer than plastic, but I'm always, worried that it might be leaching chemicals into the foods.
Yeah, see, that's one of those things that I think there's just not enough research on silicone because it's still
Hmm.
a relatively new material.
Yeah.
But I kind of see it as just a soft rubbery plastic.
Right.
So I try to avoid it just because I know eventually they're probably going to come out with something that says, yeah, it's the same as plastic or maybe worse, who knows.
Right.
But it's just another petrochemical, so I'm kind
Yeah.
of cautious about it.
Definitely.
Now, how does all this affect mental health? So we're learning some kind of basic um, tools that you can get, some cooking principles. What does this have to do with mental health?
Yeah. I mean, just eating, whole foods can affect your mental health in so many ways. Getting the proper nutrition, getting the right, balance of macronutrients, and even when you're cooking your own food, um, you have that sense of knowing everything that you put into it, having that reassurance that there's no, weird ingredients, any highly processed stuff. And if you can cook with friends and family, there's that bonding aspect, which, community is very important for us as social creatures that we are.
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, it really, big picture, everything everything to do with cooking your own food can just make you feel better. And having that satisfaction of cooking your own meal and knowing what went into it.
I agree 100%. I love the fact that you brought up the community aspect to cooking. So
Hmm.
if you do any research about other cultures around the world, even in Europe, they cook as families.
Yeah.
So like I mean Europe, yeah, they work fewer hours a week than we do. Like I think it depends on which country we're talking about, but it can range from 30 to 35 hours to be considered a full-time worker for them.
Mhm.
We work 40 or more hours. So we have what I've heard referred to as hurry sickness, where we're always in a hurry.
Yeah.
We're always in a hurry to get out the door to get to work on time, which means we skip breakfast. Or if we have breakfast, maybe it's coffee or it's something really easy to grab, which is
Hmm.
usually something that's high in carbs or sugar. And so we don't really get a good breakfast. And then what happens at lunchtime? We might have an hour for a lunch, but we're still kind of working during our lunch break. And so we're rushing to eat our food if we even have any food. So it
Yeah.
ends up not being much of a meal there. And then with dinner time, the kids have soccer practice or there's that other event that you have to go to. So
Hmm.
you're rushing to throw food in your mouth on your way to that next thing. It's always about that next thing in
Yeah.
America.
Oh
But if
yeah.
we can slow down, like if you've got the financial security to work a little bit less, which I know isn't a lot of people right now, but if you have that ability, I would definitely say that is a healthier route to go. Slow down a little bit, work fewer hours, and prioritize that family time, that sense of community.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that work life balance is a huge thing for a lot of people, and it can be harder for some than others. But being able to find that balance, and if you can wake up just a few minutes earlier in the morning and sit down and enjoy that coffee, or just prepare a quick breakfast, or even if you're fasting, just take a few minutes to meditate and just kind of plan out your day. And slowing down, I think, can really do a lot for people that are always on the go.
Yeah. There's a mindful eating aspect to that too, where I mean, slowing down technically
Mm,
is a mindfulness approach,
yeah.
but if you're cooking with your family, we'll say Thanksgiving as like the prime example. I think most of us are pretty good at slowing down and cooking together.
Hmm.
I mean, Thanksgiving dinner is notorious for taking a lot of preparation, but that's not
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Yeah. More time spent together, learning those
More
family
time
recipes.
spent together, but then also as you pay attention to the smells that you're creating as you cook. Hopefully it's not a burnt smell, but the smell the smells of the food in general, like that's triggering to the brain in a good way in that it sends signals to the digestive organs to start secreting digestive juices. So
Hmm.
digestion actually starts in the brain and you really have to be mindful with that food preparation process for that to happen.
Yeah. Definitely, it's important.
So satisfaction with using proper cooking techniques. I would say confidence too. There's so many people. I work with a lot of young adults, college students. They don't know how to cook, but they also don't really have the budget for getting real food. What do you know about that as far as like eating on a budget?
That can definitely be challenging. Um, but I mean, in retrospect, fast food restaurants aren't as cheap as they used to be, and sometimes your dollar can go a lot further when you're cooking the food yourself, especially when you're buying in
Yeah,
bulk, like Costco. You
I would
know,
say almost all the time.
yeah,
Based on my experience. Like fast food restaurants can cost as much as a sit down restaurant now, which is ridiculous.
yeah,
Even though they're doing the kiosks and they're trying to find ways to cut costs, they don't have to pay as many employees. Somehow prices are still going up.
doesn't add up.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think in most cases you could save money by going to the grocery store. So typically if I'm traveling, I will try to find a grocery store rather than a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, my typical travel food, like I know you can buy hard boiled eggs that are already boiled,
Yep.
which honestly, I think I'd rather boil them myself, but you can buy them. So sometimes I'll
Yeah.
buy those. You can buy fresh nuts, you can buy cheeses, you can buy, like I'll get baby carrots because you can usually you can get those organic. whereas
Mm-hmm.
with other vegetables, maybe not without some like washing and cutting first. Um, and so there are different ways that you can do it, even when you're traveling, and you can save some money there.
Yeah, definitely.
Most college students eat a lot of carbs because that's what's cheap, it's what's available, it's shelf stable. We can get into some conspiracy theories on why carbs are cheap, but um, I know you're a big protein guy. What would you recommend to like a college student who's struggling to afford getting more protein and fat in their diet?
Yeah, I mean that can be a real challenge, especially if you're going to school, away from home, and you're in a dorm. Um, but if you, have access to a kitchen, um, like we were saying, an air fryer could be a really great tool to prepare your own food, or an instant pot. But yeah, I mean, if they can find the time to do some meal prep, maybe on the weekends or whenever they have time, and cook up some chuck roast, like I was saying, and then they can freeze it into smaller portions and then just pull it out whenever they need it. Or hard boil some eggs and keep them in the fridge. They'll last for about a week or so. Um, but yeah, it can really be challenging. There's so many less optional or less ideal options out there. You really want to try to do the best you can. If most restaurants, you can get a side of protein. If you go to like Rubio's, um, or Chipotle, you don't have to get a whole bowl. You can just get a side of one of the proteins. That could be really helpful. Um, another good one is egg bites. You can make some egg bites pretty easily, and you can freeze them. They'll hold up in the freezer pretty well. But it's really about just getting creative and trying to find those better options wherever you can.
Yeah, I think eggs are like one of the cheaper options for a good fat and protein. I mean, lately, maybe not so much, but compared to like a steak, definitely they're cheap, right?
Yeah,
So if I were to go back into my 20s and do life all over again, I probably would eat more eggs just because back then they were like $1 a dozen for the cheap ones.
yeah,
I don't know what they are now. I have chickens, so I don't buy eggs, but last I heard, they were kind of hovering around 7.50 a dozen for the cheapest.
yeah,
And I'm like, whoa. But that's still, I mean, when you consider like buying a pound of ground beef, you might spend that same amount of money on a pound of ground beef. So
yeah. It's depends where you go. Definitely. I mean, if you just go to the local grocery store, the eggs can be pretty expensive. But if you go to like a wholesale, or like Costco or Sam's Club, you can get eggs for under $5 a dozen, and even pasture raised eggs, which
yeah,
might not be the same as your chickens, but they've got to be better than the factory farmed stuff.
yeah. So typically at conventional grocery stores, Costco included, they have cage free, which it actually isn't any better than just regular eggs.
Yeah.
Cage free just means that they're in tight quarters in a huge warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can look up videos on YouTube and kind of see what that looks like, but it's not any better than just the caged chickens.
Right. Yeah. At least with
So,
pasture raised, hopefully they're getting some bugs and some sunlight and getting a little bit more than a cage free.
yeah, so I mean, it goes like there's conventional, what we call, I think they call it grade A eggs, which to me is like grade F, but still, still better than nothing. Like if you need fat and protein and you have very little food budget, still get some eggs, even if they're the cheap ones. So
Yeah.
that would be the lowest quality ones where they just
Mm-hmm.
They don't even make any marketing claims. They just call it eggs.
Right.
And then the next step up, which like I said is not really a step up, but they call it cage free. The next step up from that would be free range.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that's not the highest quality is because free range to factory farmers is we're going to keep the chickens in a big warehouse, like I described a minute ago, but we're going to open the doors sometimes and let them wander around on the concrete.
Yeah.
So so they're still not really outside. They're not eating bugs like they're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be. They're not digging in the dirt like they're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. Pasture raised is actually the highest quality.
Yeah.
That's what you want if you can afford it, because pasture raised means that they're not just sitting on concrete all day. They're not sitting in a warehouse, they're not sitting in a cage. They are actually out on an open pasture and digging through the dirt and eating bugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're getting that, microbiome from the soil, which we all
Yeah,
need, and they're
super
getting
important.
the fresh air.
And a marketing claim that I see a lot on eggs too is vegetarian fed, which like sounds healthy,
That is crazy to
but
me.
yeah, like when you
Having,
consider what's the natural diet of a chicken? It's supposed to be omnivorous. Like chickens
yeah,
are supposed to be eating meat. They're not supposed to be vegetarians.
it's wild. It's like trying to feed your cat vegetarian when they're obviously a carnivore, a
Right.
predator. But yeah, I've had chickens in the past. I don't have any right now, but I loved having chickens and watching them go after lizards and just all kinds of little critters out there. You see that they are omnivores. They're eating the seeds, they're eating plants, they're eating everything, and it's crazy the marketing that they put vegetarian fed.
I got my wife a shirt that says it has a picture of a chicken and it says chickens eat bugs so we don't have to.
I
Cuz
love that.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard of like there's a push to make like bug meat. So
Yeah,
like there's I mean these ultra processed foods that we were talking about earlier, they're starting to actually put like beetles and other things in that crap.
wow, that's wild.
It depends on what you get. I don't think it's like mainstream by any means yet. Hopefully it never will be, but yeah, there are people who are trying to push that into our food supply.
That's crazy.
How would you
Definitely.
feel about that? I know some cultures actually eat bugs on purpose, but how would you feel if you had to eat bugs?
I mean, I didn't grow up with it. I know people that eat, like crickets. It's a popular dish in some Hispanic cultures, but it just weirds me out. I mean, they're definitely a good source of nutrition, but not something that I would look forward to.
That's kind of how I feel too. Like I don't think I've ever eaten a bug. Oh, actually, I take it back. I was in France and I had escargot, but that was my only time eating a bug.
Hmm.
And even then, the escargot was like, it actually wasn't that bad, but it wasn't good enough for me that I would go out of my way to have it again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like lobsters and shrimp are kind of like bugs, and those a lot
Yeah,
of
that's a
people eat
good point.
those. Yeah.
I've been saying that for years. Like, I don't think I've ever actually had lobster or crab because my whole life I thought they just looked like big bugs.
Hmm.
And as you think about like anatomically, they pretty much are just they're sea bugs.
Yeah, they got the exoskeleton, but man, they
Yeah.
taste good with some butter.
I mean, I'm way more inland than you, so like I can't really access that stuff where I am anyway unless I spend a
Yeah,
lot of money.
right.
So maybe if I lived on the coast, I might try
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about going on a lobster dive, a scuba diving trip where you actually go and you collect lobsters. I think that would be fun get some super fresh seafood.
Mm. Yeah, I think if we can grow our own produce, maybe even raise our own livestock or catch it in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
that really is the most optimal. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier about how Americans work more than most countries in the world, with the exception of maybe Japan and China, we work a lot. So we don't have a lot of time, we don't have a lot of energy because we also happen to be the sickest in the world. And so we don't really have the ability to go and catch our own food, but if you do, you could get some really high quality meats that way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I used to do hunting. I haven't done it in a while, but getting wild game is some of the best food you can. They're just natural animals in their own habitat, and they're eating what they're supposed to eat, and they're super healthy. And yeah, wild game is some of the best protein you can get.
So I just finished reading Dr. Casey Means' book, Good Energy, like just last week. And I think it was in that book she was talking about how wild animals are almost always metabolically healthy. But as soon as we domesticate them, we bring them into a human environment and we start
Mm,
feeding them human made food. So even if it's specifically designed for that animal, like dog food, for example, they always end up getting some kind of chronic disease.
yeah.
Most domesticated dogs end up dying from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned like the example of like cats being fed a vegetarian diet. I was thinking I think the reason dogs get cancer is because we're feeding them dog food.
Yeah.
And we're not allowing them to be outside like they should be. Like I mean it's okay if they come inside sometimes, but there are people who just don't take their dog for a walk and they don't have a
Mm,
yard to put their dog outside in. So they
yeah.
keep them inside all the time and then they
Hmm.
eat this dog food which to me is just ultra processed food for animals.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why they get cancer and die.
Right. Yeah, I've been making my dog's food for a while. I give them a raw diet, and they
So do you give them raw meat?
I do. Yeah, I give them actually ground beef and ground turkey, and then we include blueberries and peas and carrots, and um, we also include liver, beef liver, and kidneys. So they get those secreting organs. And
Wow, they're getting really good nourishing foods.
yeah, they eat really good, sometimes better than me, but their health has improved greatly. We've been doing this for many years now, but before that, they were overweight and had different health issues, but they're doing really good now.
Wow, that's cool. I've always kind of wondered, like, I don't have a dog right now. I've got chickens, like I mentioned. I do give them commercial feed, but I make sure that it's organic and soy free at
Mm,
least. So that's
yeah.
the bulk of their diet, and then I'll buy dried. Usually, it's mealworms or
Hmm.
black soldier fly larvae. I make sure I'm at least giving them some bugs
Yeah.
in addition to all the organic food scraps that we're producing in our kitchen. So pretty much every day we're putting food scraps out in the chicken run.
Hmm. It's
So
a
so
great
they
way
have
to eat.
a pretty varied diet, but I do feel badly about that commercial feed. But it's like sometimes that's just all we can give them. So we do our best.
It's really hard to provide them enough calories without using the commercial feed. And at least you're, going above most people and using the soy free and the organic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have a feed store in Utah that they actually sell organic soy free. I don't have to like special order it online or
Hmm.
something. It's just a local place and maybe in other parts of the country, probably depends on where you are, but you might be able to find that at other feed stores too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty common now. It's definitely a little pricier than the corn and soy stuff, but it's worth it when you want, high quality eggs.
Hmm. Any last tips as far as like basic cooking skills or ways to eat on a budget, improve mental health? Anything that pops into your mind before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything with health, just start slow and start with the basics. You can go on YouTube. There's a million cooking videos. Find a simple recipe that you like and try it out and find what you like, and then you can modify from there and make it as challenging as you like. And I think one thing that a lot of people struggle with is trying to be super strict on a healthy diet, and I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. I like to do a flex meal plan where I allow myself to be more flexible, 10% of the time. So for me, that comes out to 3 meals a week, where I allow myself to eat things that I normally wouldn't, and I still obviously prioritize protein in those meals. But what I don't do is feel guilty and make myself feel bad for eating those foods. And especially when you're
Yeah.
out with friends and family, I think that can be really important. So not being super hard on yourself is a big one.
Yeah, it depends on which nutritionist you ask, but I've heard anywhere from like if you have 80% of your diet whole foods or 90% of your diet whole
Hmm.
foods, that's really good. And then you can
Yeah.
use that other 10 or 20% to just eat what you want. Like
Hmm.
if you don't have a gluten problem, go ahead and have some Oreos once in a while,
Right.
or have some ice cream if you don't have a dairy problem. And
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up over that. You don't have to be a purist to be healthy.
Right. And 90/10 is ideal. And so if you're eating the standard American diet now, you might want to start with a 50/50, meal plan where you're eating 50% whole foods and 50% other stuff. And then you can build upon that and work your way up to it.
I'm not sure what the statistics are on that one specifically, but do you know like what the average American eats on the standard American diet as far as whole foods?
It's probably 10%.
Yeah, I would guess like just based off of like all the patients that I work with and other practitioners that I talk to, it does seem like it's like 5 to 10% whole foods. Like it's really
Yeah.
not that much. So even people who think that they're eating healthy because they're eating the things that are commonly thought of as healthy, like yogurt, granola bars, cereal,
Mm,
bagels. I'm trying to name like all of these ultra processed foods that aren't actually that healthy. So people are eating stuff like that, and they think, oh yeah, I'm eating a pretty healthy diet. It's low fat. Look at all this, the grain that I'm eating,
mm,
but they are still missing out on whole foods.
yeah.
And so, yeah, and so sometimes it's just starting out small, like you said, 50-50. If you're not eating enough whole foods, which essentially means food that is not made in a factory, maybe think about adding more of that into your diet and see
Yeah.
how you feel.
Yeah. If it's got an ingredient list, then it's not a whole food.
Yeah.
It's pretty
One
simple right
last question for you. If people wanted to learn more about you, maybe find your books, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can learn more about me and get in touch with me at my website, which is joshnoland.com.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Cody. It's always a pleasure to speaking with you.
If you want to support this podcast, go to kofi.com/Cody Cox. That's ko-fi.com/Cody Cox. Real Food Mental Health is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I do not necessarily agree with all of the views shared by guests. The information presented on this podcast is not intended to replace any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While I am a healthcare provider, I am not your provider. Always seek the advice of an appropriate healthcare practitioner with any personal questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this podcast. Reliance on information provided by this podcast is at your own risk.